Brand new TV show spoiler review here at Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Dittenberg. Today I am breaking down the penultimate episode of Hulu's, not HBO's, Hulu and FX's Alien Earth. This is episode 7 titled Emergence. We're going to break down this episode in full spoiler thoughts, give you my big, prediction for what I think will happen next week and talk all things Alien Earth. You guys, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and ring that bell for notifications. I do movie, TV show reviews, out of theater reactions, and every Monday I do a box office breakdown show. So if you're new, please click that subscribe button and ring that bell so notified when my videos hit the channel. Also, guys, please comment down below. What are your thoughts on Alien Earth episode 7? Was this one of your least favorite episodes? What are your predictions for the finale episode? Love talking with you guys in the comments, so please comment down below. And without further ado, guys, please hit that thumbs up button. That is the best way to support this channel. I do want to say once again off the bat that I am still under the weather here at this point. So if you don't see me as, I'm trying to get myself as energetic as I can be physically looking for this review. I'm still sick. So again, I'm sorry if you don't think I am the most energetic I can be. I am just, yeah, very under the weather still. So, but I watched the episode and still wanted to get out a review for Alien Earth. So let's get into this episode. So after what happened last week, which set the table for this episode, which was Toodles dying in the lab, the creatures kind of being exposed, and we saw that they put Arthur back in the wall, but instead it's learned that Slightly took Arthur to his room underneath the bed with the face hugger still on him. And you can tell that Slightly starting to feel very bad about this situation. He is trying to give Arthur some liquid, and obviously that grip gets harder because of that. And that is when Slightly's best friend Shmi walks in and sees that he has Arthur. And he says, he has my family. I need help. Just need to take him to the beach. Again, Kirsch knows that Slightly is doing this, knows that he's communicating with Morrow. And I was told the whole time was interesting. What was Kirsch's long game with this? But we learned this episode that it is a giant trap because even when Slightly and Shmi are trying to escape the compound, Kirsch helps them and says, "Go up to this floor. That's where you can go to the beach." And it's all a laid trap so they can capture Morrow and the first wave of Yutani military forces. So I actually like the fact that Kirsch is one of the smartest characters on the show. Where last week he didn't tell Boy Cavalier what happened last week on the show, but he does right away when they go back to the compound. He sees everything that happens. He says, "Look at the footage." And again, Boy sees these hybrids as expendable. He doesn't really care what happened with Toodles. He's already thinking about can we recalibrate his brain and all of this stuff. Even the fact that Toodles changed his name to Isaac and Kirsch does, which, Kirsch is not, again, that into the human side of these hybrids. He even called him Isaac, and Boyd's like, "Who's Isaac?" He's like, "Sorry, Toodles." And I think Kirsch, again, it does have a bigger plan, I think, than just capturing the Yutani people. The fact that he respects Toodles enough to even call him Isaac is very interesting. But when they're looking over the lab footage, Wendy comes in after, Boy literally just said Wendy's the only person who can come in the lab so she can still communicate with the xenomorph. And Wendy is shocked to see that Toodles is dead because she even says, "I thought we were invincible. We are not supposed to die." Once we got into these bodies and seeing the fact that basically she's now not invincible, not this impenetrable being. And then she started a little bit communicate with the xenomorph as she is escaping with she's now finally ready to go with her brother Joe, but she says, she in her mind still has the responsibility to take care of the other hybrids because it was her selling of the idea of hybrids which made all of the kids comfortable for their transition. So she still feels a big responsibility to the rest of the hybrids. So she walks in and it's Nips and it's Curly having this conversation. And, Wendy's and Curly and Wendy had this big fight where Curly's like, they helped her. And when he said, does helping her mean getting rid of her memories? Nips realizes Nibs, and she comes and wants to go with Wendy and Joe. Curly stays down, but again, Wendy says, promise me you won't tell on us. And Curly says, I promise. Clearly, she doesn't promise towards the end of this episode in some capacity. I do wish there was a time where Wendy and Joe were like, where were Slightly and Shmi? After they got Nibs, that's not all of the hybrids, so it just didn't make a lot of sense that they just kept moving on story-wise. Like, for 1 second, they just never thought about Shmi or Slightly, which I thought was a bit disappointing. But as they're going on, right as they're about to leave to cause a major disturbance, as I said, she communicates with the xenomorph and she unlocks the gate and unleashes the xenomorph on all of these people. Now, she is now starting to disregard her humanity because she is letting the xenomorph go to work without thinking about lives lost in the situation. And she cares about the hybrids. She does, very much so. She still cares about her brother until the end of the episode, which we'll get into. But she is now starting to let the xenomorph kind of get loose here, which is always very exciting. Which then leads to this whole part where they're seemingly captured by some agents, and that is where the xenomorph goes loose. The xenomorph action in this episode was so awesome. If you're a big Alien fan like myself, it is very satisfying seeing the xenomorph go to work in this episode. The CGI effects are so well done. All credit to the team here for Alien Earth. Again, sorry for the cough. But then the xenomorph stops and looks and lets even Wendy touch the xenomorph before it runs off. And Joe says, "What did you ask of it?" And um, Wendy said to follow closely but stay hidden. And she says, I think I said that to the xenomorph. She has now become the most powerful character on the show because not only is she this hybrid being who can withstand so much of a beating, but she can now communicate verbally with the most dangerous creature in this universe. So, the creature obviously was watching with what happened at the end of the episode. We'll get into that as well. So, as Shmi and Slightly are hiding away from the agents, they lose track of Arthur. And Arthur's now back alive without the face hugger on him, without the memory of what happened. We know what happens when that means, which means the face hugger is probably going to pop out of his stomach. And that happens much later. They kind of agree to go back to the compound and make sure everything's correct. And that is where the hugger comes out, goes on the loose, and Slightly and Shmi lose track of that alien creature, which is the whole point of what Morrow wants is that creature. But they still go to the beach, and Morrow is very disappointed. Says, "You're an adult now. You need to own up to your mistakes." But he doesn't punish them at first. But obviously, this leads to Kirsch trapping them. Now, the end of the episode is Wendy, Joe, and Nibs get on the boat, and that's when the rest of the military people who are friends of Joe are there for it looks like just a trap to stop them. And Nibs has this really violent killing of one of the guards, and that's when it becomes a full-blood like action scene, but it all gets stopped when Joe tases Nibs. And we end the episode with Wendy screaming at him twice, "Why would you do this?" And I think we're going to get a pretty big separation here between Joe and Wendy. And I think Wendy's obviously losing her humanity, but that to her is her sister in a lot of ways. And the fact that Joe would even think of doing that to her is a big choice here. So that's where we end the episode. I thought it was a really good episode, very intense, great xenomorph action, more development with the characters. I will say the part that didn't make a lot of sense, which I get, which is the fact that now the trackers are off the people, but we've seen the camera footage and the security cam footage that Wendy scrolls throughout the whole show. Why is it such a shocker when these kids go missing? They have so many cameras across this building and island. It would seem nearly impossible to escape like all of the kids did. Like Boy was so stunned that he couldn't find any of the kids. That didn't really make a lot of sense because they were walking in hallways, which must have security cameras there. I thought that was a bridge too far, that you had to spend too much disbelief there. But overall, I found this to be a very enjoyable episode. It had a lot of good action into it and a very interesting ending where I do think, again, we don't hear or see the Prodigy Company in the remaining Alien movies. So obviously this company is going to become no more. And I think the big thing that will happen in the finale is I think Utani's going to send more people to the island, but I think overall, Weyland Yutani is just going to bomb the entire island with all of these characters on it, including the big one, which is Moro, which he feels like such a important piece to Utani, and he'll feel very expendable if that indeed happens. Which I think is the truth of it. I think he's being used again by Utani in this situation. So I do think the overall island will be bombed to smithereens with a lot of the specimens as well on there. The question is, will any of these characters survive? Again, we're heading to the finale. There has not been an update on if we're getting a season 2 of Alien Earth. Again, we're getting Predator Badlands in November, which will have a big tie into the Alien franchise. The viewership, at least for the first 2 episodes, was disappointing for this show as it pertains to the Nielsen ratings. So we'll see if this is a limited series, this is a one go at it, or Noah Hawley wants to continue on in season 2. We will see. I don't know how they're going to end the show. If a lot of characters are alive, you would feel like they want to do a season 2. If they kind of kill everyone off, as I said, on the island, then it would feel like they're kind of done with this set of stories. But I'm very interested to see what they do with next week's episode. I'm excited to break it down for you guys. So I'll be back next Wednesday, guys, breaking down another episode of Alien Earth. So please subscribe, ring the bell, comment, like, and I'll see you guys in another video quite soon.